They call me Emperor Jian the Cold, and they are not wrong. My heart turned to stone the day I executed my wife for treason against the throne. The evidence was perfect. Documents in her hand, her personal seal on secret messages, money from her accounts flowing to our enemies. My most trusted advisor of 30 years, Chancellor Zhao, presented it all with such sadness in his eyes. The Grand Council agreed. Justice must be absolute, even for the one I loved most. I watched her die from the highest tower. Hours later, her final letter arrived in my chambers. As I read, my world crumbled. The treason was real, but it wasn't hers. My beloved Mei had been framed by those closest to me, Chancellor Zhao, Minister, Chen, and her own cousin, Lady Lin. They orchestrated her death to weaken me, planning to take my throne next. She died knowing the truth, but chose silence to protect me from immediate danger. Now cold fury replaces my grief. They believe they've broken me. They celebrate while I mourn, but they will learn what happens when you betray an emperor. Their destruction will be complete, and I will make them suffer as I have suffered. This is not just revenge. This is justice. I executed her for treason, then read her final letter and begged the heavens to reverse time. They call me Emperor. Jian and I rule the Middle Kingdom with a fist forged in ice. My subjects whisper that I am cold, ruthless, unfeeling. They are not entirely wrong. For 15 years, my beloved wife Mei stood by my side as Empress, her wisdom and grace earning the respect of our people and the envy of our enemies. In her, I found not only a partner in rule, but a companion in life, someone whose intellect matched my own, whose counsel I valued above all others. Our imperial court functions through a delicate balance of power. Grand Chancellor Zhao has been my mentor for 30 years, guiding me since I was a young prince preparing to take the throne. He oversees the administration with meticulous attention, his experience invaluable in navigating the complex politics of our kingdom. General Wei commands my armies with tactical brilliance, his loyalty seemingly beyond question. Minister Chen manages the treasury, his mind a collection of precise calculations and financial strategies. And Lady Lin, Mei's cousin, serves as her closest female companion, their kinship supposedly strengthening their bond. It was an ordinary council meeting when the first whispers of treason reached my ears. Reports of classified information flowing to a rival kingdom, details that only someone with access to our most sensitive discussions could know. I ordered an immediate investigation, assigning Chancellor Zhao to personally oversee it. His age and wisdom made him the natural choice to handle such a delicate matter. The security of the realm is threatened, Your Majesty, Zhao reported, his voice grave as we spoke in my private study, away from curious ears. These leaks contain information from our most protected councils. The traitor must be someone close to the throne. I nodded, my face revealing nothing of the cold anger building within me. Find them, Chancellor. No one is above suspicion. For weeks, Zhao brought me evidence piece by piece, building a case with disturbing precision. A jade seal matching one in Mei's possession appeared in intercepted communications. Documents written in calligraphy bearing the unique characteristics of my wife's hand detailed our military positions along the northern border. Treasury records showed unusual transfers from Mei's personal accounts to merchants known to have connections with our rivals. I began watching Mei more closely, noting small changes in her behavior that I had previously overlooked. Private meetings with couriers that ended abruptly at my approach. Scrolls hastily rolled and hidden when I entered her chambers unexpectedly. Conversations with Lady Lin that ceased when I joined them in the garden. What troubles you, my husband? Mei asked one evening as we sat in our private garden, the moon casting silver light across her perfect features. You seem distant these past weeks. I studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. The burden of rule weighs heavily, I replied, revealing nothing of my suspicions. There are matters of state requiring my attention. She reached for my hand, her touch familiar and comforting. Perhaps I could ease your burden. You know my counsel is always yours to command. Was there something calculating in her eyes, Some hidden motive behind her offer? Or was it merely the loving concern of a devoted wife? I could no longer trust my judgment where she was concerned. The final evidence came during a private council with my most trusted advisors. Chancellor Zhao presented intercepted messages, bearing May's personal cipher, detailing not just military positions but our strategy for upcoming negotiations with the very kingdom receiving the information. "I take no pleasure in this revelation, Your Majesty," Zhao said, his voice heavy with apparent regret. "But the evidence points to a single conclusion. Empress May has been sharing state secrets with our enemies." General Wei, his face grim, nodded in agreement. The military information in these documents could only have come from someone with access to our war council. Minister Chen added, "The financial trails are clear, Your Majesty. Funds from the Empress's personal treasury have been flowing to known agents of our rivals. I examined each document with excruciating thoroughness, looking for any inconsistency, any reason to doubt the growing certainty that my wife, my beloved May, had betrayed not just me but our entire kingdom. "Convene the Grand Council," I finally commanded, my voice betraying none of the turmoil within. "All evidence will be presented and examined. Justice must be absolute, even when it breaks the heart." The Grand Council deliberated for 3 days, examining each piece of evidence with the gravity such accusations demanded. May stood before them with unwavering dignity, her denials firm but never desperate, her composure remarkable for one facing such serious charges. "I have served the Emperor and our kingdom faithfully since the day of our marriage," she stated, her clear voice echoing in the council chamber. "I cannot explain this evidence against me, but I maintain my innocence and my loyalty to my husband and my homeland." Despite her composed defense, the council's verdict was unanimous. The evidence, overwhelming in its consistency and detail, left no room for doubt. Treason had been committed by the Empress herself. The law was clear on the punishment for such a crime. That night I visited May in her cell, now stripped of all imperial decorations and comforts. Our conversation was brief, conducted with the formal language of emperor and condemned subject rather than husband and wife. Only a slight tremor in my hand betrayed the storm raging within me. "If you have any final truth to share," I said, standing rigidly before her, "now is the moment." May looked at me steadily, her beauty undimmed by her circumstances. "Truth always emerges, Your Majesty. My loyalty to you has never wavered." After a pause, she added, "May I request permission to write a final letter? A private farewell?" I granted her request, seeing no harm in allowing this small dignity. A brush, ink, and paper were brought to her cell, and I left her to her final thoughts. At dawn, I stood in the highest tower of the palace, watching as May was led to the execution ground. She walked with dignity, her steps steady, declining the offered blindfold. Just before kneeling at the block, she raised her gaze to my tower, our eyes meeting across the distance. Was that accusation in her gaze forgiveness, or something else entirely? The blade fell. My wife, my empress, my beloved May was gone. Justice had been served, but as I turned away from the window, I felt a hollowness spreading within me, as if a vital part of my soul had been severed along with her head. Hours after the execution, I returned to my private chambers, dismissing all servants with a wave of my hand. I wished to be alone with my grief, though I would show none of it to the world. Emperors do not weep. Emperors do not break. Yet with the door closed, I felt something crack within my carefully maintained facade. I picked up a jade figurine May had gifted me on our 5th anniversary and hurled it against the wall, watching it shatter into a dozen gleaming fragments. Then another object, and another. My rational mind observed this display of emotion with detached curiosity even as my hands continued their destruction. This loss of control was unlike me, yet I could not seem to stop the tide of rage and sorrow that threatened to drown me. A soft knock interrupted my private devastation. I composed myself instantly, years of imperial discipline reasserting control over my features. "Enter," I commanded, my voice betraying nothing of my inner turmoil. An elderly handmaiden, one who had served May since before our marriage, entered and bowed deeply. In her weathered hands, she held a sealed letter. "The final words of the Empress, Your Majesty," she said, her eyes downcast. "She instructed me to deliver this to you personally hours after the execution was complete." I took the letter, dismissing the woman with a nod. The seal was May's personal design, a phoenix, in flight. My fingers trembled slightly as I broke it, unfolding the delicate paper covered in her unmistakable calligraphy. "My beloved husband," the letter began, "by the time you read these words, I will be gone. I go to my death, accepting the evidence against me, but innocent of the crime. The treason is real, but the traitor is not your wife." My breath caught. I read on, my heart beginning to pound in my chest. Chancellor Zhao orchestrated my downfall, with Minister Chen and my cousin Lin as his willing accomplices. They have forged documents, planted evidence, and manipulated the truth with extraordinary precision. I discovered their plot 2 months ago, but could not openly accuse them without risking your life as well. The letter continued, detailing how May had uncovered the conspiracy and her reasons for not revealing it sooner. She had learned that the plot went beyond merely removing her, describing a comprehensive plan for my eventual overthrow. "In the hidden compartment of the jade chess set you gave me on our 5th anniversary, you will find the true evidence, documents in Zhao's hand, records of their meetings, and proof of their communications with our enemies. They plan not just my removal but your eventual overthrow." My eyes scanned the words again and again, disbelief warring with a growing cold certainty. May had been many things, but never a liar to me. Not in our most private moments. The clarity of her writing, the specific details she provided, all bore the mark of truth. "I accept this fate to protect you from immediate danger, giving you time to uncover the full conspiracy. Remember always that my final act was one of loyalty to you and our kingdom. With eternal devotion, May." I set the letter down carefully on my desk, my mind racing through implications and possibilities. If what May claimed was true, I had executed an innocent woman, my own wife, based on evidence manufactured by those I trusted most. The thought was almost too horrific to contemplate, yet I could not dismiss it without investigation. Moving silently through the palace corridors, I made my way to May's former chambers, which remained sealed by my order following her arrest. The guards posted at her doors bowed deeply as I approached. I entered alone, ordering them to allow no one else to pass. The rooms remained as she had left them, her presence still lingering in the arrangement of scrolls, the faint scent of plum blossoms that had been her favorite. I located the jade chess set, an exquisite piece I had commissioned for her from the finest craftsman in the kingdom. We had spent many evenings playing together, her strategic mind often besting mine despite my greater experience. My fingers found the hidden mechanism I had shown her years ago, a secret known only to us. The false bottom of the box slid away, revealing a compartment filled with carefully folded documents. I removed them with reverent hands, spreading them across her writing table. The evidence was meticulous and damning. May had intercepted and copied correspondence between Zhao and foreign agents. She had documented meetings between the conspirators, noting times, locations, and snippets of overheard conversations. Most condemning were copies of drafts in Zhao's own handwriting, plans for using my grief over May's execution to manipulate me into increasingly poor decisions, creating conditions for his eventual seizure of power. There were financial records, detailing how Minister Chen had diverted imperial funds to finance the conspiracy. Letters between Lady Lin and Chancellor Zhao revealed her role in monitoring May's activities and planting false evidence. The conspiracy was comprehensive, involving officials throughout the court, extending even to foreign powers who anticipated a weakened Middle Kingdom under Zhao's puppet rule. As I examined each document, grief transformed into something colder and more focused. Fury, yes, but not the blind rage that had led me to destroy objects in my chamber. This was a controlled, precise anger, a weapon to be wielded with perfect accuracy. I had been betrayed not by my wife but by those I had trusted for decades. May had been sacrificed to their ambition, her execution merely the first step in a plan to seize control of everything I had built. Her final act had been one of supreme loyalty, accepting death to protect me and give me time to uncover the truth. The realization struck me physically, a pain in my chest so acute I had to brace myself against the table. I had killed her. I, who had vowed to protect her, had signed her death warrant. I had watched her die, believing her guilty while the true traitors stood at my side, observing my grief with secret satisfaction. For the first time since childhood, tears threatened to fall from my eyes. I suppressed them with an effort of will. Tears would not bring May back. Tears would not deliver justice to those who had orchestrated this tragedy. I gathered the evidence carefully, securing it in a hidden compartment within my own robes. Then I left May's chambers as silently as I had entered, my face a mask of continued grief. To the watching court, I would appear a ruler devastated by necessary but painful justice. They would see exactly what they expected, what the conspirators wanted to see, a broken man susceptible to manipulation. They would never suspect that beneath this mask of mourning, a cold, calculating fury was taking shape, a plan forming with crystalline clarity. They believed they had won the first battle by removing May. They had no idea that in doing so, they had created their most dangerous enemy, an emperor with nothing left to lose and every reason to pursue, vengeance with relentless precision. Chancellor Zhao, Minister Chen, Lady Lin, and their co-conspirators would pay for what they had done. Not quickly, not obviously, but with the inevitable, inescapable justice of an emperor whose heart had turned to ice in the wake of his greatest loss. The court expects to see me broken, so I give them precisely that illusion. Each morning, I appear with darkened eyes and a slight unsteadiness to my movements. I speak little during council meetings, appearing distracted and withdrawn. I call for wine at inappropriate hours. I leave documents unsigned on my desk. To the watching eyes of the conspiracy, I am exactly what they anticipated, a ruler crippled by grief and guilt, increasingly dependent on their guidance. Behind this carefully constructed facade, my mind works with cold precision. I must verify every claim in May's letter, confirm every suspicion, and map the entire network of betrayal before I act. Hasty revenge would be satisfying but ultimately futile against a conspiracy this extensive. I need absolute certainty. First, I identify those I can trust without reservation. The list is painfully short. My aging tutor, Master Liang, who taught me long before I ascended the throne, now lives in semi-retirement in a pavilion near the Imperial Library. His political ambitions ended decades ago, his loyalty proven through 3 emperors' reigns. The captain of my Imperial Guard, Fang Wei, owes his position to May's intervention after he was falsely accused of negligence years ago. And most surprisingly, General Wei, whose relationship with the conspirators appears complex, but whose fundamental loyalty to the throne, I begin to suspect, remains intact. I call Master Liang to my chambers under the pretense of seeking philosophical guidance in my grief. Once alone, I reveal nothing of my suspicions but ask him to translate certain obscure texts that require his scholarly expertise, texts that will provide cover for him to examine the evidence I have discovered. These annotations appear to be in Chancellor Zhao's hand, he observes quietly after studying one document. The cipher used here is one I taught him myself 30 years ago. To Captain Fang, I assign the task of quietly replacing certain guards with men whose loyalty runs directly to me, rather than through the chain of command that Zhao largely controls. I justify this as security concerns following the execution of a traitor empress, changes that the conspirators would expect. Your Majesty requires absolute security during this vulnerable time. Captain Fang agrees, his eyes showing he understands more than my words convey. My approach to General Wei must be more circumspect. During a military review, I request his personal assessment of border defenses, walking with him along the palace battlements where we cannot be overheard. The northern garrisons report unusual movements from the Zhan Kingdom, I mention casually. Chancellor Zhao assures me they pose no threat. General Wei's eyes narrow slightly. The Chancellor seems unusually confident in his assessment. I would recommend independent verification of those reports, Your Majesty. This careful response tells me what I need to know. The General suspects Zhao as well, but cannot speak openly. I nod thoughtfully, as if merely considering military matters rather than testing his loyalty. With these limited resources, I begin my verification process. Each night while the palace sleeps, I conduct my own investigation. I examine the forged seals used to create documents in May's name, confirming subtle differences from her actual seal. I trace financial records through the Treasury archives, identifying the clever pathways Minister Chen created to divert imperial funds. I document meetings between the conspirators, using servants and guards loyal to Captain Fang to observe and report. Most crucial is confirming Zhao's communication with the Zhan Kingdom, our supposed enemy. This requires particular delicacy, as foreign intelligence falls directly under the Chancellor's purview. I dispatch a trusted courier under the guise of a trade mission, carrying messages to our actual spies within Zhan territory. The responses confirm my worst fears, revealing ongoing negotiations between Zhao's agents and the Zhan leadership, preparing for a staged border conflict that would justify martial measures within our kingdom, measures that would ultimately place power in Zhao's hands. Throughout this investigation, I maintain my appearance of distraction and grief. I allow Zhao to guide council meetings, seemingly too overcome to lead effectively. I approve recommendations without appearing to read them fully, though in truth I scrutinize every word. I permit Lady Lin to console me publicly, accepting her false sympathy while noting every subtle exchange between her and the Chancellor. Your Majesty should consider delegating more responsibility during this difficult time, Zhao suggests during one council meeting, his voice perfectly balanced between concern and deference. The burden of rule is considerable even without personal tragedy. I nod vaguely, as if the thought barely registers. Perhaps you are right, Chancellor. I find my mind wandering these days. It is only natural, Your Majesty, Lady Lin adds, her voice gentle with practiced sympathy. The Empress would want you to care for yourself, to allow those who serve you to ease your burden. I notice how Minister Chen's eyes flick between them, the subtle nod of acknowledgement. They believe their plan progresses perfectly. That evening I have my chambers searched for poisons. I find 3 subtle compounds added to my tea, my wine, and my sleeping draught. Not enough to kill, merely to enhance my lethargy and confusion, to make my apparent decline seem natural to the court. I continue to consume these tainted items in small amounts, building a tolerance while maintaining my facade of growing weakness. 2 months after May's execution, I make a critical discovery through General Wei's careful intelligence. The conspirators have set a specific timeline, planning to complete their takeover during the winter solstice celebrations, when ceremonial requirements would place me in vulnerable positions multiple times. They believe my deteriorating condition will make their final moves appear as a regrettable but necessary response to an emperor no longer fit to rule. This timeline gives me exactly what I need, a precise deadline and a complete understanding of their intentions. While appearing increasingly dependent on Zhao's guidance, I begin planning not just my response but a complete dismantling of every aspect of their conspiracy. During one council meeting, I allow my hand to tremble visibly as I reach for a document, spilling wine across the table. The conspirators exchange glances of satisfaction at this further evidence of my decline. "Forgive me," I murmur, seeming embarrassed and confused. "My concentration is not what it was." "Your Majesty need not apologize," Zhao responds smoothly. "We all understand the strain you bear. Perhaps a period of rest before the solstice celebrations would be advisable." "Yes," I agree vaguely. The solstice. So many ceremonies to remember. As the council disperses, I catch the subtle smile that passes between Zhao and Minister Chen. They believe victory is nearly theirs, that the Emperor's spirit weakens daily, that soon I will be entirely in their control. They have no idea that every moment of apparent weakness is calculated, every sign of confusion deliberate. They do not realize that while they believe themselves the hunters, they have already become the hunted. Their confidence will be their downfall, their certainty, a victory, the very thing that blinds them to the trap slowly closing around them. My counter-strategy unfolds with the precision of a master calligrapher. First, I must secure my own safety against more direct attempts on my life. The poisons already discovered in my chambers suggest the conspirators may grow bolder as the solstice approaches. I replace my food tasters with men personally selected by Captain Fang, their loyalty assured through family connections rather than court advancement. I establish new protocols for the preparation of my meals and medicines, creating a secure chain that bypasses the usual palace hierarchy that Zhao controls. My sleeping quarters are quietly reinforced. Additional hidden exits constructed under the guise of repairs to the aging palace infrastructure. I begin sleeping irregularly, never establishing a pattern that might make me vulnerable to nighttime assassination. To the court, these appear as the restless habits of a grieving man. To the conspirators, they represent the deteriorating discipline of a ruler losing his grip. Next, I solidify my alliance with General Wei. During a private military briefing, I deliberately drop May's name in connection with border security, watching his reaction closely. The Empress always favored strengthening the western passes, I remark, studying his face. She believed them more vulnerable than Zhao ever acknowledged. General Wei's expression shifts subtly, a flash of genuine grief crossing his features. The Empress had remarkable strategic insight, he responds carefully. Her assessments often proved correct where others were mistaken. This confirms my suspicion. The general had doubted May's guilt, but had been powerless to intervene against the overwhelming evidence. I take a calculated risk. I sometimes wonder if her judgment on other matters was equally sound, I say softly. The general meets my gaze directly, something he has not done since the execution. I have often had the same thought, Your Majesty. This exchange, brief and seemingly innocuous, establishes our understanding. Without explicit words, General Wei has confirmed both his suspicion of the conspiracy and his loyalty to me. He becomes my most valuable ally, controlling military forces that could prove decisive if the conflict escalates beyond political maneuvering. While maintaining my grieving facade, I begin systematically mapping the full conspiracy network. Using May's evidence as a starting point, I identify every official, servant, and military officer involved. Some are true believers in Zhao's cause, others mere opportunists, still others coerced through blackmail or threats. I document each one, assessing their importance to the conspiracy and their potential vulnerability. The conspiracy proves more extensive than even May had realized. Zhao has spent years placing loyal subordinates throughout the imperial bureaucracy, creating a shadow government ready to assume control. Minister Chen has established financial networks to fund their operations and reward their supporters after the takeover. Lady Lin has cultivated a network of court ladies who influence their husbands, creating social pressure that will help legitimize the coup once it occurs. Most concerning is the foreign dimension. The Zhan Kingdom to the north is not merely aware of the conspiracy, but actively supporting it, anticipating favorable treaties and territorial concessions once Zhao takes power. Their agents have already infiltrated our border regions, preparing for coordinated actions during the solstice celebrations. With this knowledge, I begin placing my own pieces on the board. When Zhao recommends reassignments of certain officials, I appear to agree absent-mindedly while actually positioning loyal men in key locations. When Chen suggests treasury allocations, I approve them with apparent disinterest, secretly tracking how the funds are diverted and establishing parallel financial channels under my direct control. The northern province governors should be summoned for the solstice ceremonies, Zhao suggests during one council meeting. Their presence would demonstrate the unity of the realm during this transition period. I nod vaguely. As you think best, Chancellor. I trust your judgment in these matters. What Zhao does not realize is that I have already communicated with these governors through General Wei's secure military channels. Those loyal to me have been warned and instructed. Those allied with the conspiracy have been identified and will be closely monitored during their visit to the capital. The most brilliant move in my counter-strategy comes 3 weeks before the solstice. During a council meeting, I announce plans for an imperial progress through the provinces, supposedly to reconnect with the people during my time of grief. I find the palace walls oppressive these days, I explain, my voice appropriately weary. Perhaps traveling the realm would ease my mind. The conspirators exchange looks of concern. An imperial progress would disrupt their carefully planned timeline, potentially delaying their coup beyond the strategically chosen solstice date. While the sentiment is understandable, Your Majesty, Zhao responds smoothly. The preparations for the solstice ceremonies require your presence in the capital. Perhaps such a journey would be better undertaken in the new year. I sigh, appearing easily persuaded. Perhaps you are right, Chancellor. The ceremonial duties must take precedence. You need not concern yourself with the details of the preparations, Lady Lin adds gently. The Chancellor and Council will ensure everything proceeds perfectly, allowing you time to rest and recover your strength. I give her a grateful smile, seeming oblivious to the calculation behind her words. You are too kind, Lady Lin. I am fortunate to have such devoted servants. The announcement of the imperial progress, though apparently abandoned, serves multiple purposes. It suggests my continued distraction and malleability, reinforcing the conspirators' confidence. It forces them to reveal more of their timeline and priorities. Most importantly, it provides cover for unusual troop movements and communication with provincial officials that would otherwise raise suspicion. As the solstice approaches, I make my final preparations. Loyal troops are strategically positioned throughout the capital, their presence explained as ceremonial security. Additional guards vetted by Captain Fang are integrated into the palace security rotation. Secret passages and escape routes are cleared and readied, not for my flight but to ensure my forces can move throughout the palace undetected when needed. I establish a secure communication system with General Wei, Master Liang, and Captain Fang, using codes based on classical texts that only we would recognize. We finalize the sequence of events that will unfold when I finally spring my trap, each man knowing his precise role in the counterstrike. Throughout these preparations, I continue playing the role of a broken ruler. I appear distracted during important discussions, defer increasingly to Zhao's judgment, and show physical symptoms of decline, from trembling hands to occasional confusion over names and dates. I allow Chen to guide financial decisions with minimal scrutiny. I accept Lady Lin's solicitous attention with apparent gratitude. 1 week before the solstice, I overhear a conversation between Zhao and Lady Lin in the palace gardens. A meeting they believe private, but which my loyal guards have ensured I can observe unseen. The Emperor deteriorates more rapidly than anticipated, Che remarks with satisfaction. By the solstice, the court will be relieved when we step forward to provide guidance. He barely reads the documents before signing them now, Lady Lin agrees. Yesterday he called me by his wife's name, then seemed confused by his error. Everything proceeds perfectly, Zhao concludes. The transition will be smooth, the court and people accepting the necessity of our intervention for the realm's stability. I smile in my hiding place, a cold expression that would have shocked them had they seen it. They believe themselves the masters of deception, never suspecting they are being deceived. They think themselves architects of a brilliant strategy, unaware they are merely pieces in a greater game. The solstice approaches, and with it the day of reckoning. They believe it will mark their ascension. They do not know it will instead ensure their destruction. 5 days before the winter solstice, I make my final move in setting the stage. During the morning council meeting, I appear more distracted than usual, staring out the window for long periods, my responses delayed and sometimes irrelevant. The conspirators exchange satisfied glances, interpreting this as further evidence of my deterioration. There is one matter I wish to address personally, I announce suddenly, my voice stronger than it has been in public for weeks, drawing surprised looks from the council members. Of course, Your Majesty, Zhao responds, quickly masking his surprise, with deference. I wish to hold a special imperial ceremony the day before the solstice, I declare. A memorial for Empress Mei and an address concerning the future governance of the realm. Zhao hesitates fractionally, his mind visibly assessing this unexpected development. A thoughtful gesture, Your Majesty, but the schedule of solstice preparations is already quite demanding. Nevertheless, this will proceed, I state with a hint of my old imperial authority. All court officials will attend. The arrangements will be under my personal direction. The conspirators cannot openly object to a memorial for the Empress without raising suspicion. More importantly, my apparent interest in discussing the future governance of the realm aligns perfectly with their plans. They believe I am unwittingly creating the ideal opportunity for them to implement the final stage of their coup, perhaps even planning to announce my own retirement or the appointment of Zhao as regent. It shall be as you command, Your Majesty, Zhao concedes smoothly. A fitting tribute before the solstice celebrations. The people will appreciate Your Majesty's public acknowledgement of this difficult transition, adds Lady Lin, barely concealing her satisfaction. I nod vaguely, returning to my appearance of distraction, but I have observed everything I needed to see. The conspirators believe my ceremony plays perfectly into their designs. They have no idea it is instead the perfect trap. Over the next 4 days, I oversee the preparations for the ceremony with unexpected attention to detail. The throne room is arranged precisely to my specifications, with subtle adjustments that will prove crucial during the confrontation. The positions of guards, the placement of court officials, the timing of the proceedings, all are calculated, with mathematical precision. Your Majesty shows surprising energy for these arrangements, Zhao comments carefully when I reject one of his suggested modifications to the ceremonial order. The Empress deserves a proper memorial, I reply simply. It is the least I can do, having executed her for treason. The slight flinch in Zhao's expression is nearly imperceptible, but I catch it. The reminder of his successful manipulation causes not pride but momentary discomfort, a reaction that confirms his guilt more clearly than any confession. On the eve of the ceremony, I meet separately with my 3 trusted allies, confirming our final preparations. General Wei reports that loyal troops are positioned throughout the capital, ready to move at his signal. The military garrison is secure, Your Majesty, he assures me. Those commanders sympathetic to Zhao have been isolated from their units under various pretexts. Captain Fang confirms the palace security arrangements, with loyal guards strategically placed throughout the throne room and surrounding corridors. Every exit is covered by men whose loyalty to Your Majesty is absolute, he reports. Once the trap is sprung, there will be no escape. Master Liang has prepared the documentation of the conspiracy, organizing May's evidence and my subsequent discoveries into an irrefutable case against the traitors. The evidence is comprehensive, Your Majesty, the old scholar says quietly. Every claim can be verified, every accusation proven beyond doubt. That night I perform rituals of purification as befits an emperor preparing for an important ceremony. I bathe in water infused with herbs, don new robes of white silk symbolizing mourning, and meditate before the ancestral tablets of my imperial lineage. To observers, these appear as the actions of a ruler honoring his executed wife, despite her treason. In truth, they are my preparation for the justice I will deliver in her name. I sleep little, my mind reviewing every detail of the coming confrontation. By dawn, I am fully alert, my body and mind honed to perfect clarity after months of pretended weakness. When my attendants arrive, they find me already awake, sitting in perfect stillness before May's memorial tablet. Your Majesty has risen early, one remarks with surprise. Today is a day of significance, I reply simply. Bring my formal robes. The court assembles in the throne room at midday. Every official of importance is present, including all known conspirators. Chancellor Zhao sits in his place of honor to the right of the throne. Minister Chen is positioned among the financial advisors. Lady Lin takes her place with the court ladies. General Wei stands with the military commanders, his face revealing nothing of his knowledge of my true plan. I enter last, walking slowly, but with purpose to the dragon throne. The assembled court bows as protocol demands. My expression is grave but composed as I take my seat and survey the gathering. For months they have seen a ruler broken by grief and manipulation. Today, though they do not yet realize it, they will see an emperor delivering justice. Today we gather to honor the memory of Empress May, I begin, my voice stronger and clearer than they have heard since her execution. Her death for treason was a necessary but painful act of justice that has weighed heavily upon me and upon our realm. The conspirators exchange subtle glances of satisfaction. My words confirm their narrative, the fiction they have constructed to justify their actions. This is the broken emperor they have cultivated, still accepting the lie they created. However, I continue, my tone shifting subtly, recent evidence has come to light that demands examination by this court. Chancellor Zhao stiffens slightly, though his face remains impassive. Your Majesty, perhaps such matters could be addressed privately before bringing them to the full court. No, Chancellor, I respond firmly. What I must share today requires witnesses. I produce May's letter, holding it for all to see. This letter was delivered to me after the Empress's execution. It contains extraordinary claims that, when first read, I was reluctant to believe. Lady Lin leans forward slightly. Your Majesty, the desperate words of a condemned traitor hardly merit such attention. Silence, I command, steel entering my voice. The court grows utterly still at this unexpected display of imperial authority. You will speak when permitted, Lady Lin. As imperial guards move silently to block all exits, I read May's letter aloud, my voice carrying to every corner of the throne room. I watch the conspirators' faces as their carefully constructed world begins to crumble around them. Zhao maintains his composure, decades of political maneuvering evident in his steady gaze. Chen grows pale, his financial mind calculating rapidly diminishing odds of escape. Lady Lin's expressions shifts between disbelief and growing fear. When I finish reading the letter, I look directly at Chancellor Zhao. I would have dismissed these as desperate lies, I say, had I not investigated each claim thoroughly and verified them beyond all doubt. For the first time in months, I allow the court to see me as I truly am, not the broken puppet they believed they had created, but an emperor whose apparent weakness concealed deadly purpose. The mask of grief and confusion falls away, replaced by the cold, focused intensity of absolute judgment. Zhao recognizes the transformation instantly. His eyes narrow, reassessing me with the calculation of a seasoned strategist facing an unexpected threat. Bring forth the evidence, I command, rising from the dragon throne. I descend the steps of the dragon throne with measured poise, each step deliberate and firm. The court remains frozen in shock at my transformation from grieving puppet to commanding emperor. As I approach Chancellor Zhao, I see the calculations running behind his eyes, decades of political maneuvering evident in his controlled expression. For 30 years, I trusted you as mentor and advisor, I say, my voice carrying throughout the throne room. Your betrayal is not just of me, but of everything our kingdom represents. Zhao maintains his composure admirably, even now. Your Majesty misunderstands. These accusations are clearly the desperate fabrications of a guilty woman seeking to cast blame on others. Bring forth the evidence, I command. Imperial guards wheel in carts laden with documents, the complete record of my investigation. Master Liang steps forward, his aged hands steady as he begins organizing the materials. For the next hour, I methodically present proof of each conspirator's guilt, allowing the full court to witness the dismantling of the conspiracy piece by piece. I begin with the forged documents bearing May's seal. This is the imperial seal of the Empress used to condemn her, I state, holding up the jade piece. And this is the forgery created in Chancellor Zhao's workshop, with the almost imperceptible flaw in the lower right corner, a difference only detectable under close examination. I continue with the financial records, calling upon trusted treasury officials to verify the evidence. These accounts show how Minister Chen diverted imperial funds through 17 separate channels, creating the illusion of legitimate expenditures while actually financing the conspiracy. Chen's face grows ashen as I detail each transaction, the specific amounts and dates leaving no room for denial. Several court officials edge away from him physically, already distancing themselves from the exposed traitor. Lady Lin attempts to maintain her dignity, but her composure cracks as I reveal intercepted correspondence between her and Zhao. "My cousin trusted you above all others," I tell her, my voice cold, "while you reported her every movement and helped plant the evidence that led to her execution. Most damning is the complete plan for the coup scheduled for the solstice, including orders already drafted in Zhao's handwriting for my eventual execution, disguised as a suicide of grief." As this document is read aloud, gasps echo through the throne room. Even officials not involved in the conspiracy appear shocked at its scope and ambition. "The evidence continues with proof of communication with the Zhan Kingdom," I state, unfolding maps and decoded messages. "Not as enemies of our realm, but as allies in this betrayal, promised territorial concessions and favorable treaties once Chancellor Zhao seized power." As the evidence mounts, the conspirators' confidence crumbles visibly. Lower officials implicated in the plot begin looking desperately for exits, only to find each doorway blocked by loyal guards. Minister Chen attempts to speak, his financial mind perhaps calculating that partial confession might mitigate his punishment. "Your Majesty, I was merely following directives," he begins. "I had no knowledge of the broader conspiracy or the actions against the Empress." "The Treasury records indicate otherwise," I reply coldly. "Every transfer bears your personal seal, including those funding the forgery of evidence against Empress Mei." Lady Lin falls to her knees, abandoning dignity for desperate pleading. "Mercy, Your Majesty. I was misled, manipulated by Chancellor Zhao's influence. I never intended harm to the realm." I look down at her, remembering how she had comforted me after Mei's execution, her false sympathy while knowing she had helped condemn her own cousin to death. "Your treachery runs deeper than most, Lady Lin. You betrayed not just your emperor but your own blood." Throughout these revelations, Chancellor Zhao remains the most composed, recognizing the completeness of his defeat with the dignity of a skilled player who acknowledges a superior move. When the evidence is fully presented, he finally speaks. "You have outplayed me, Your Majesty," he acknowledges, a student surpassing his teacher at last. "No," I respond, my voice cold and precise. "A ruler delivering justice. This was never a game, Chancellor, though you treated it as such. This was governance and loyalty, concepts you corrupted for your ambition." I return to the dragon throne, the court parting before me, officials bowing more deeply than before, now in genuine respect rather than mere protocol. As I take my seat, I survey the room, noting which officials appear shocked, which relieved, which still calculating their options in this new reality. Chancellor Zhao, Minister Chen, and Lady Lin, I pronounce, my voice carrying the full weight of imperial authority. For high treason against the throne, for conspiracy with foreign powers, for the unjust execution of Empress Mei through falsified evidence, and for plotting the overthrow of legitimate imperial rule, you are sentenced to public execution at dawn tomorrow. I pause, allowing my next words to carry special significance. The execution will take place at the same location where Empress Mei died, following identical protocol. Justice comes full circle. The three primary conspirators are led away in chains, their faces showing varying degrees of acceptance of their fate. Zhao maintains his dignity, walking steadily between his guards. Chen weeps openly, his calculated mind finally broken by the inescapable certainty of his downfall. Lady Lin stares at me with a mixture of fear and defiance until the final moment. I turn to the remaining court officials. Those whose names appear in the conspiracy documents will be judged according to their level of involvement. Some will face execution, others imprisonment, some exile. There will be no escape from imperial justice. The throne room remains utterly silent as the implications sink in. Many officials who believed themselves uninvolved now realize the extent of my investigation, wondering if their own minor contributions or silent complicity have been documented. For too long this court has harbored treachery beneath a veneer of loyalty. I continue. That ends today. Those who serve the throne faithfully have nothing to fear. Those who plotted against it will find no mercy. I rise from the throne, signaling the end of the ceremony. This court is dismissed. General Wei and Captain Fang will oversee the security arrangements until tomorrow's execution. As the officials file out, many trembling visibly, I remain seated on the dragon throne, my face revealing nothing of my inner thoughts. The confrontation has proceeded exactly as planned, the trap closing perfectly around the conspirators. Yet I feel no triumph, no satisfaction in this victory. Mei remains dead, executed by my hand based on their lies. Justice will be delivered, but it cannot undo what has been done. At dawn the following day I stand in the highest tower of the palace, the same position from which I witnessed Mei's execution. Below, the three primary conspirators are led to the execution ground. A crowd of citizens and officials gathered to witness imperial justice. Before the blade falls, I have Mei's final letter read publicly, ensuring all know of her innocence and loyalty. Chancellor Zhao faces his end with the composure of a man who recognizes the completeness of his defeat. Minister Chen continues to weep, broken by the destruction of his carefully constructed world. Lady Lin stares defiantly at the tower until the final moment, perhaps still believing she might somehow escape her fate. The blade falls 3 times. Justice is delivered. Yet as I watch, I feel no joy, no satisfaction, only the cold completion of necessary vengeance. The conspirators who took Mei from me have paid with their lives, but her life cannot be restored. In the months that follow, I rebuild my court with officials of proven loyalty. I establish new safeguards against conspiracy and treason. I create a permanent memorial to Empress Mei, restoring her honor and ensuring her sacrifice is remembered throughout the realm. The people come to call me the Dragon Emperor, not for cruelty, but for the perfect justice I delivered, for the cold precision with which I uncovered and destroyed those who betrayed the throne. My rule becomes legendary for its fairness coupled with absolute intolerance for treachery. 1 year after Mei's death, I visit her memorial alone, dismissing all attendants. I place her restored imperial seal upon the stone, fulfilling my promise of vindication. My face reveals nothing of my inner thoughts, but those who serve me closely note that I never smile again, and that the warmth once present in my governance has been replaced by flawless but dispassionate justice. The palace whispers that I died with Mei on that execution ground, that only my body continues to rule while my heart lies buried with her. Perhaps they are right. The man who loved with the passion of youth is gone, replaced by an emperor forged in the fires of betrayal and tempered by the ice of vengeance. I have become what circumstances demanded, a ruler of perfect justice and unflinching resolve. I executed my wife for treason, then used her final letter to destroy those who truly betrayed us both. Her death transformed me, and through that transformation, her loyalty was vindicated and her enemies annihilated. This is her legacy and mine, written in the blood of traitors and the enduring laws of a realm that will never again tolerate such treachery.